When Scottie Barnes was drafted 4th overall in last year's draft, it caught a lot of people by surprise. A lot of draft experts had anticipated the Raptors taking Jalen Suggs with that pick, the heir apparent to Kyle Lowry, the point guard of the future, someone who just had a really good season with Gonzaga, had shown winning qualities and ability to create his own shot, and for others, he seems like a perfect fit for a Toronto's Raptors team that really prioritized defense and also the ability to playmake and create opportunities. However, what people did not anticipate or account for was this was a Toronto Raptors franchise that had also drafted Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and also picked up Fred VanVleet as an undrafted free agent, among some very other astute moves. So with that in mind, you could see they were hoping to tap into the potential of Barnes, a 6'9", great athlete with long arms, a very high motor, and maybe most important of all, a very good work ethic and a very high IQ. Those two things that I will talk about a little bit later. But most of what you heard about Scottie was on the defensive end of the floor. Those intangibles that he possessed were on display at Florida State with his ability to switch positions 1 through 5, with the flashes of playmaking and transition offense. What was not expected, however, was for Scottie to be this good this early. In fact, I heard some draft experts suggest that he probably wouldn't be this good at scoring maybe at any point in his career, particularly not as a rookie, and that's been the biggest surprise. But it's not just the scoring numbers, it's the improvement that he's made from college to the NBA, and now from the NBA, the first 15 or so games of the season, to now recently, where he just continues to go from strength to strength and continues to add different skills and different aspects to his game, which is just leaving me with the question, what is his ceiling? What is the ceiling of this man? Now, before I talk about that, if you could drop a like on the video, that would be much appreciated. Make content like this mostly every single day, and subscribing to the channel as well would be cool. Now, I'm not going to bother going back to college or summer league. I just wanted to add some perspective as to what was expected of him and how he's exceeded all expectations from pretty much everyone. But let's just start with the first few games of his NBA career, because if you just look at the raw stats, you might not think he's made that much progress because they've stayed pretty consistent, which is impressive in itself considering the numbers he's been able to put up. There hasn't been a major increase in production. However, what he has done, he has improved some other aspects. But before I talk about that, let's just talk about how he started his NBA career, because through the first 7 games, he was leading rookies in scoring at 18 per game. He was leading rookies in rebounding, and also amongst rookies that were actually a feature in their team's rotation, he had the highest field goal percentage. Like I said before, this was not expected, but through his first 7 games, he just seemed to get it. He just seemed to understand where to be, he seemed to understand his tools, and also how he could utilize them to take advantage of mismatches or opportunities where he could take players off the dribble and finish at the rim. He was already finishing at the rim at a high level consistently, but also, apart from that, the mid-range jump shot, particularly against the Boston Celtics in Game 2, where he dropped 25 points in a performance that, again, was a lot earlier than a lot of people would have anticipated. Coming off movement, getting to his spots, and just rising up over different defenders, showing that confidence as a mid-range shooter that wasn't expected this early in his career. And that's what we saw a lot of. Through this first 7 games, he was getting to his spot. He was shooting just under 40% on pull-up jumpers, which was pretty impressive. He was also shooting 43% on 3 mid-range shots a game, which was again very impressive. And why I mentioned the first 7 games was because that was prior to a little injury where he missed a couple of games, in which he started the season really well. And then after that, took him a couple of games to get back to where he was. But if you look at his first 15 games of the season, he was fantastic. He was fantastic. He was most people's first or second in the Rookie of the Year race alongside Evan Mobley. But since then, well, he's improved so much in one aspect of the game that it's honestly ridiculous. Like, it is honestly ridiculous, and that is shooting. Because I mentioned how there were a lot of things that were questioned about Scottie out of college. In regards to his half-court offense in particular, one thing that wasn't questioned, it was just a statement, and it was a fact, was he was not a good 3-point shooter. He was not someone that people projected to maybe even be a good 3-point shooter at all, and there were a lot of question marks about how he could progress as a 3-point shooter. And to start his career, despite doing everything really well, he was not shooting the ball well. He was not shooting the ball really at all. If you look at his numbers, he was shooting a whopping 1 of 2 on pull-up 3 attempts. Yes, through 15 games, he had attempted 2 pull-up 3s, made 1 of them. However, it gets a little bit worse because through 15 games, he had attempted 11 catch-and-shoot 3s and also made one of them. So that rounded out to a grand total of 2 of 13 from 3 in his first 15 games, less than 1 attempt per game, and a grand total of 15% from 3 through those first 15 games. So basically, he was pretty much a non-threat. No, he was a complete non-threat from 3. Now, this is where things start to get honestly ridiculous, because over the last 11 games, he has tripled his catch and shoot 3-point attempts and is not just shooting them more, but is shooting 42% as opposed to 9% on catch and shoot threes over the last 11 games. He's also made 4 of his 10 pull-up threes. To keep it simple, Scottie Barnes has gone from a complete non-threat, the non-threat of all non-threats from 3, to now shooting over 41% on nearly 4 3-point attempts a game on both pull-up threes and catch and shoot threes over the last 12 games. Now, if you were to ask me how this has happened, I'm not a mechanics coach, so I'm not seeing anything in his shot that has completely changed. I'm not exactly sure. I think it just comes from the combination of confidence. Obviously, he started to make them, and once he started to make them, he became more confident in taking them. Also, the defense was consistently giving them to him because they realized how good he is attacking the rim, even getting to his mid-range spot as well, so they're willing to allow him to take those shots, and he's been willing to make those on a consistent basis. How he has flipped a switch like not many other people probably have done in NBA history. I obviously don't have the numbers in front of me, but for him to go from 15% through his first 15 games without really attempting shots to now consistently taking them and making them is incredible. I think it starts with his mid-range shot, his free throw line shot, looking pretty decent and pretty confident coming off the dribble, coming off screens and doing a little bit more as a mid-range shooter, and then it extended out to the three-point line. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, Scottie Barnes is not just okay from there, but he's been really, really damn good. Now, does this mean he's going to be a 40% three-point career shooter? No, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know how good he's going to be as a three-point shooter, but all I do know is I don't see him going back to 15%. I don't see him being a complete non-shooter pretty much at any point in his career, I would imagine, because he seems to have the confidence. His shooting touch looks pretty good. It is good from pretty much all 3 levels when you consider his mid-range shooting has been pretty high percentage. His free throw percentage has been pretty solid, and he's got touch inside. So I don't imagine him as someone that is just going to completely lose the ability to shoot like he has gained over the last 15 games. Even with that being said, for him to have flipped the switch and for him to have made some of the shots he has made on a consistent basis, and that game and shot against the Nets obviously stands out with that step back 3 in the corner, which would have probably hit the backboard if he attempted anything of that nature, or he would have got benched if he attempted anything of that nature earlier in the season, but now he's swishing that. Like, the improvement he has made as a shooter is nothing short of incredible, and I think it comes down to obviously he's been working hard. We know that. We've seen his improvements from college to now, and that's been really good, but it's just honestly, yeah, like it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's not the only part of his game in which he's improved. That's why I wanted to make this video, because not only has he become a good three-point shooter recently, but also he's made improvements as a playmaker and defensively. And let's just start with the playmaking, because Scottie is averaging 4 assists over his last 14 games, as opposed to under 3 before. But I think more impressive is with more responsibility as a playmaker, he's reduced his turnovers, which just tells me that he's reading the game and he's understanding the game a lot better. And a lot of this playmaking comes from him making the right decisions. Sounds very obvious, obviously, but like him getting the double teams when teams want to collapse on him and just kicking it out to an open shooter, or making the plays off a short pick and roll, stuff of that nature. He just reads the game so well, and we're seeing that defensively as well, which I'll talk about in a second, but just his understanding of where to be and what plays to make continues to grow. So while the scoring numbers might not have changed much, which, I mean, they were never going to change that much after you start the season scoring 18 points a game on 55% from the field, like they could only really go down or stay the same at that point, and for him to have maintained the scoring, improved the shooting, and improved the playmaking, it's pretty incredible. If he continues at this point, he clearly has the highest potential on this Raptors team. And this is a Raptors team with a lot of good players, and maybe he is the guy with OG Anunoby, who's still pretty young, Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. Maybe Scottie Barnes will be the 5. That'll be interesting to see, but like this could be the piece that if he turns into a superstar, which he has the potential to be, this Raptors team could have that similar situation to the Kawhi Leonard situation. I'm not saying he's going to be the same player, but a team with role players, coaching, defensive principles, versatility, switchability, and hopefully a superstar or a star to cap it all off. That's what he's looking like being, at least at the moment. And defensively, touched on it. To start the season, he showed the flashes. I mean, he's 6'9" with great agility, a great wingspan, and great physical tools, so he's always going to make some plays. But recently, his understanding, similar to his passing, similar to his scoring, has just improved. He's staying in front of smaller guys more consistently. He's blocking more shots. He's playing as a 5 at times as well, which has been fun, and that'll be fun to see later in the season what happens when Pascal Siakam and the team is actually fully healthy, which we really have not seen in so long. Just for the Raptors, they cannot get a consistent run of games while healthy. I mean, no one can at the moment, but that'll be fun. In general, the improvements Scottie Barnes continues to make have been kind of astonishing. The shooting in particular, but also the other aspects of his game that he's consistently rounding out. And the Raptors, they've got a stud. They've got an absolute stud. There's no doubts about that. That's why I wanted to talk about him. Have a good day.